Right. And we are live. Hello, Jay Williams here, and today I have something very special for you. If you followed me in the past or you've tuned into my channel, you'll know that a lot of what I do is about helping people grow their businesses. But believe it or not, there is more to growing a business than just marketing and sales. Someone once said to me that you don't have business problems, you have personal problems that are actually overflowing into your business. And one of the biggest areas I like to focus on in my day-to-day lives, which forms a foundation for growing a business, is the relationships that I create with my partner, through my friendships, with my clients, with my family. And that is exactly what we're going to be moving into through these very special interviews. And today I have a very special guest with me. She's come all the way from Finland, London. Her name is Miia Koponen.
It's Miia, thank you.
Miia
Miia.
Koponen. I meant to ask you that before the call.
Yeah, well done, well done.
And it's Koponen.
Not many people get that pronunciation right.
How are you doing today, Miia?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you, Jay?
I'm awesome, excited. We're having some lovely overcast weather here in the UK. So
yeah,
nothing unusual. But it's all good. Yes, it's all good. So the way we're going to kick this off, today we're going to be talking about Nordic style dating. And Miia is a specialist or an expert, and I'm not going to steal her thunder because she's going to tell you all about who she is and how she even got into this space and what this Nordic style dating is. Is it better than what we do in the UK? I thought we were brilliant at dating in the UK. So I'm going to hand it over to you. Tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, how you even got into this.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Jay. So I grew up in Finland. And I lived my first 18 years in Finland before I moved to London, with the plan to go back to Finland in 4 months. But plans changed, and I ended up staying here. I ended up going to university here. And 20 plus years later, here I am still. And after university, my first proper job was in marketing and events, which I really enjoyed. And then I was in between jobs, and I've always sort of enjoyed psychology and understanding people, interaction between people. And I saw an ad for a part-time temporary admin assistant for a dating agency. And I thought, okay, that sounds amazing. So I went for that particular role and I got it. And after the temporary assignment, they actually asked me to stay and asked me to do more than part-time basis. And I started learning all about matchmaking and what makes people tick. And I stayed with that first company for about 11 years, which is a really long time. But I'm glad I did because I learned so much throughout that time. And I also started learning the different ways that people relate to dating and relationships and intimate life. And I kind of slowly started developing my own approach to it. At the same time, sort of struggling with my own relationships and sort of trying to figure out what is it that I want, having come from sort of Nordic background and then living in London, which is quite different when it comes to dating and relationships in some ways. So 2 years ago, I left that company and I worked for a couple of other matchmakers for the past 2 years. And then sort of February, March last year in 2018, I thought, okay, now it's definitely the time to start my own business. And I set it up and I've been developing it ever since. And I officially launched it end of last year, sort of November. But I do have some clients already. And it's all about coaching. It's about coaching people in the area of dating, relationships, sex and intimacy. So it covers all those areas really. And the Nordic, in brief, kind of means that it's sort of a bit more open and equal approach to dating than what we here in the UK perhaps have learned about dating and relationships. So that's me in brief.
Awesome. You probably talk for way less than I would have talked if I was trying to talk to people about myself. So that's good.
Oh, really? Okay.
And stop. So obviously dating is an area that you specialize in, and you mentioned like you specialize in different areas within relationships and sex in dating. But if we focus on dating, what are some of the like common problems or common mistakes people make when it comes to dating? Like maybe give us the angle from the Nordic approach, and maybe even give us the Brit approach, or any other country that you know about that does it right.
Yeah. So I think the most common mistakes one of the most common mistakes people do when they go into dating is that they think that relationship and a partner will actually solve all their other problems. I've been in that camp. So I know it's easy to fall into that trap because that's what we've been sort of told about ever since we've been growing up, ever since we're kids. That relationship is something that will save you, and you need to be in a relationship in order to be happy and all that. And it's great, and it's true that we all want to love and be loved. But if that becomes a sort of desperate search for someone else to do it for you, it can go horribly wrong. So I guess that's the fundamental thing that a lot of people get wrong when they start dating, is that that's going to be their savior. And in terms of the problems that I hear that people complain about, is that they're frustrated because they always get the same results, same disappointing results, same pattern, same kind of people. And when I ask what have they done differently, they say nothing. So it's about really seeing dating and relationships differently, from a different perspective, so that you can start getting different results. So that's in a nutshell the biggest problem, I think, is that delusion that a relationship will actually save you from all your other problems. And we've
talked just offline about what society thinks you should do in terms of like dating and relationships, and you touched on it briefly there. What is the right approach if you're stepping into the dating world? What's the approach that you should be taking?
Yeah, well, I think you need to figure out first, what is it that you want, rather than following what everyone else is doing. I mean, we're all different shapes, different colors, different sort of views and opinions. So why do we all have to fit in the same relationship model?
You mean like a checklist, right? We need a checklist. Do we need to...
In terms of relationship, or in terms of who we are? What do you mean checklist? Sorry.
So I'm starting dating, and I'm looking for the perfect woman, and I'm like, okay, yes, I have my checklist.
Then there's a checklist. And often, that's a really interesting point, Jay, because often the checklist of what people want is something they're lacking in themselves. So a good way of looking at what you might be lacking in yourself is to look at your requirement list in a partner, and then start actually working on that list and see how you can fulfill those things in yourself first.
Okay, how would they do that? So
that's a good question. So let's say you're looking for someone who can provide you with security and stability, emotional and financial. So I would check how secure do you actually feel in yourself? How comfortable do you feel in your own company? How comfortable do you feel not always be around people, or on the other end of the spectrum, be surrounded by people and actually say what you truly mean and be your true self? And in terms of the financial security, I think this is one of the big things that I noticed here in the UK, is that there's still kind of, for women, there's still somehow the expectation that men should pay for a date, or men should be providing. Provide for yourself, whether you're a man or a woman. If you go into a dating and think that the other person will provide for you, it's a very traditional view, but trust me, people still want that. Some people still want that. It's probably not going to be a healthy sort of setup for an equal relationship.
It's very interesting topic that about who pays the bill. Should it be 50-50? Should it be the man? Should it be the woman? Is
Yeah.
there an element to that that's more attractive if one more willing to pay the bill or the other, or they're willing to share? Like, what are the pros and cons to each? Because
Yeah.
I personally love a strong woman. And if she's
Yeah.
independent and she's like, no, like I'm 50-50, I'm all for that. I'm fine with that. I'd be
Yeah.
interested to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is probably the one question that never stops having sort of discussions everywhere. It's like the biggest question in the world of heteronormative dating, at least. Who pays, man or a woman? And I guess it's a generational thing as well. So some women in their sort of 50s or 60s who I've worked with, in that sort of age bracket, I think it's still part of what they've been grown up with. So it is often the man who they expect to pay. Although not all women. I mean, there's some very progressive men and women in that sort of generation as well who don't think that. I guess, yeah, it depends on your values. It depends on your individual values. And going on a first date, I would certainly encourage anyone to split the bill. And be happy with that, because you don't really know whether you want to see each other again. You might meet for a second date, but at that stage, when you're just having maybe a glass of wine or a coffee, split the bill. That would be my advice on the first date scenario, at least.
And I'm going to push it one step further, because this is just a question that popped into my head. And I know this is just a question that popped into my head. And I know it's going to divide people. There are mixed opinions about what you should do after the first date.
Yeah, okay.
Do you sleep with the guy? Do you sleep with the girl or not? What's your opinion?
Okay, very good question. Do what feels right for you. I think there's a lot of stigma, again, in the UK versus the Nordic countries around sex. And it's not uncommon in the Nordic countries for people to have sex quite early on, even on the first date, and that develops into a full-blown healthy relationship, because there's no big stigma around women or men, having sex quite early on. Whereas here, there still seems to be a stigma around it. My advice would be do what feels right. Don't feel pressured to do anything, and also don't feel pressured to say no if that's what you want. And if the other person says no, doesn't want to see you because of that, it's not probably going to be worth it anyway. So do what feels right to you. That would be my advice, rather than try and follow some rules that's been made, decades ago.
It's very interesting. Thank you for answering that. It's, you talk about what feels right for you and what is you, and not what's right, what other people expect you to do or society expects you to do. And it brings me on nicely to this interesting topic of values. The things that matter to you, where in a man, in a woman. And one of the things I've always found, or I haven't always found this, by the way, I wish someone had taught me this at school, that when you understand who you are and what's important to you, you can then go and look for that in somebody else. And I see it certainly in my relationship with my partner now, and in my new friendships, that when there's an alignment of values, things like must have a sense of humor, really, really important to me, even in a woman, and my girlfriend in a man. Must be someone who is self-aware or driven, really subtle, simple things that are really important to the success of the relationship, not just what's going on out here. And I'm interested to hear your opinion on, how do you identify some of those little things that are important to you and that you should be looking for in a man or a woman?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Really good question. And I think it's super important as well to really connect with your own truth. How do you do that? Because we've been bombarded with all these sort of beliefs that we should be believing in from young age. I think when you sort of think about your life and think about what things that you appreciate in life. It could be that you really appreciate looking after other people, that you enjoy life, not take it too seriously. And then there are people who just kind of want to take things quite seriously all the time, and that's fine too. Really connect with whether you're truthful to yourself with what you actually enjoy and like in life. It can take a little while to actually get there because of the conditioning that we've all been subjected to. But meditation is one way of sort of getting there if you want to sort of try that. But it can take a while before you can really connect to your true values. But yes, how do you then find that in a partner as well? That's the key question, I guess, for a lot of people who are dating. And I think once you're connected to your own truth and you're comfortable with who you are, what you want out of life, it's going to be much easier to be open to different kind of people and attract the right kind of people in your life as well. And you'll be able to choose when you got your values right and you are connected to them. It's going to be much easier to choose people who are going to be on the same sort of alignment, so to speak. You used that word earlier as well. I don't know if that helps at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's really powerful when some people might not understand the full concept of values. It can be simple. Like I say that a value to me is someone who's authentic. So someone who is themselves, doesn't matter who they're having a conversation with. And I just refuse to I wouldn't even have a conversation with you in this interview if you weren't authentic. I wouldn't surround myself with inauthentic people. And I certainly wouldn't go on a date with someone who was a fake or couldn't be themselves. So that is a simple value, and it's amazing once you understand values, because it's almost it can be this rigid to a degree. You almost got this frame and you look at the person and you go, do they fit with my values? And if they don't fit with my values, I'm probably not going to go on a date with them or want to get in a relationship with them. And that's okay.
I think that's a good point, but I think it's also good to be sort of open to looking beyond what you see immediately, because often people can be nervous and insecure, all these sort of feelings. But when you let someone be themselves, when you actually allow them to be themselves, you can actually find something pretty amazing and awesome in everyone. So it's good to also bear that in mind, rather than sort of, oh, well, they don't tick my box of that value, but actually open for them to sort of showing you a bit more about them, if that makes sense.
Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just really judgmental. No, I'm not. I do give people a chance, believe it or not. Well, not anymore, but I did before I met your friend. Cool. And so on that, you just got me thinking there. Online dating.
Yes.
We live in a modern world where online dating, people live very busy lifestyles, and a lot of people are getting into, especially the younger generation, are getting into online dating. The older generation, some of them are jumping into, but as I discovered at the weekend, even someone like my dad, who doesn't have a partner right now, was terrified of online dating. And there was a couple of things to that. One of them was technology. I'm not savvy with these mobile phones. Or what if other people see me on it that I know? It's not a traditional approach to dating. We talked about it earlier, but what's your thoughts on online dating, and what would be the best approach if you've never done online dating before? Would you recommend it or not?
Yeah, good question. And I think online dating has evolved huge amounts from what it was 10 years ago, for example. 10 years ago, you had the big sort of 4 or 5 big names in the online dating that ruled the online dating world. And now, gosh, you have like a sea full of fish, literally. You've got so many options. You've got so many apps. You've got so many sites that you can use. I guess the important thing is, like, first of all, to ask yourself question, what do I actually want to get out of dating? And if you really want a long-term healthy relationship and you only sign up with Tinder, it's probably not going to sort of give you the results that you want. Not that you can't find a relationship from Tinder, but it's probably less likely than, doing some research on apps or sites that are more relationship-minded, or geared at more relationship-minded people. And sometimes, if you need to pay for a site, it can filter out some of the sort of time wasters, so to speak. So it's good to do some research about different apps and different online sites and see, because there are loads of niches out there. So if you have a very specific requirement, I don't know if this site is still going on, but there used to be uniform dating. So if you have specific requirements, there's so many niche sites and apps that you can go to fulfill that. But yes, so do some research and really, really ask yourself, what do I want to gain out of this? What do I want out of dating? I think that's a key question, whether you're using apps or online or any type of dating. And then if you do decide to go online or app dating, it's very superficial. So you need to have a really good photograph. Get some photos done or get some friends to help you to choose the best one. That's really important. In terms of profiles, I think with apps, people don't write that much anymore, but make it lighthearted and fun, and don't tell everything about yourself. Just make them want to ask you more questions, and be willing to be rejected. I think that's a big part of dating. If you're gonna cry over every rejection that you have, you're not gonna get far. And then I would really advise you to do some, proper inner work before you start dating. And prepare to go on dates that aren't great, but nevertheless, try and find out more about the person. I think if you go and meet somebody that you met online and their pictures look great, and then you meet them and they don't really look anything like it, try and find out more about the person anyway. Just try and be a human, don't just dismiss someone based on how they look. Just try and be kind and compassionate and try and understand what that person is, why that person is there as well. And there are some freaks out there as well, so be aware. But just have common sense, I guess. The whole thing is have common sense, try and understand what you actually want to gain out of it.
So I think that we have a lot of business owners on my channel, so they should be used to rejection, they should be used to failure, so dating should be an absolute breeze, I'm sure.
Yeah, right, there you go, yeah.
So it's interesting you talk about the picture, and the way I approach my dad's profile, because I wrote it for him, and putting the right picture up is, I approach it very similar to marketing. And the way I say it is, you have to turn the wrong people off and turn the right people on. So for example, when it came to the picture, if you have a picture that's like really serious, like what is that going to be communicating to someone who's looking at your picture? Whereas if you have a picture with some friends, that might show your social, or if you show yourself having fun, that can all communicate a lot about you. And that's the way I see it. I'm like, well, if I want to attract someone who's fun, who looks at my photo and goes, they're fun, then I want to be doing something fun, but not a picture that's like way up, far away where they can't actually see your face, because that's not going to help anyone.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Yeah.
And then I see, when it comes to description, great advice, by the way, on making it lighthearted, making it not too serious, and leaving a little bit for people to discover. Because otherwise, if you go all of this stuff about this is me, and then you get on a date, you're like, well, what can we talk about? And you're looking about you.
Yeah, exactly. So leave something for, keep it a bit of a mystery. But also sometimes people often people actually find the whole dating and trying to find a relationship such a serious business. And it's like, I think there's something wrong when that happens. And when people are really too seriously wanting to get into a relationship as if their life sort of depends on it, it often doesn't lead into good results. So have a bit of fun with it. If you're dating, try and enjoy it. Try and take, when you go meet somebody, try and take everything, sort of a new learning from each person that you meet. Ask them a question that you're really curious about and see what their opinion is on that. And make a list of all these things that you learn or something. Make it fun. Don't always try and sort of check a list of like, they need to be this and this and that. Just enjoy meeting people.
So how do you plan for a date? How do you plan for a date? You mentioned
Do you, do
then
you,
have all of these, lists and ideas and questions
yeah.
you can ask. How do you plan for a date?
How do you plan for a date?
Should you plan? I don't know.
Should you plan for a date? That's a good question. I mean, if you are naturally curious and you have knowledge about the world and what's happening in the world, I think you're going to be all right. But if you kind of keep yourself in a behind inside of four walls, and you don't really read about anything, you're not interested in things, you might struggle. So then you might have to plan. But if you are naturally curious and you know what's going on and you've got some interest yourself, it should be fine to meet a new person, because you just ask questions and you engage in a conversation. But it's not as easy as it sounds. I know some people really find it intimidating going to meet a new person. So there can be, you can learn to become more comfortable. It really, really comes down to being comfortable and confident in yourself.
Here's another question.
Yeah, go on.
Look, what to do on a date? Like, this is always something I look at, and I look at when I used to date, and
yeah,
people say, oh, are you going to take them out for something nice to eat? Are you going to take them to the cinema where you don't talk to each other? Should you take them to a bar? I actually took my girlfriend to a ping pong bar, not the type you get in Thailand. Ping pong bar, like table tennis. Because I wanted to break the ice and give her, make it lighthearted. And you talk about making fun. And that was my idea. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it.
Sorry, I missed the last bit. What was the actual question?
I'm interested to hear your thoughts on where you would take someone on a date, the types of things you should do.
Okay. Yes, that's what I thought you said. Yeah. Ping pong play sounds like a great fun date, actually. I think the first time when you're meeting somebody, you want to sort of get to know them a little bit. So you want to have sort of maybe quiet space to ask questions and have a conversation. So I would probably encourage to go for a drink or a coffee for the first meeting, and then sort of figure out if you like each other enough to do something different the next time. Maybe go and play ping pong, or go for a dinner, or do something else. But I think the first meeting, I would probably encourage to do something quite low key and just be able to have a conversation and see if there's enough interest to have a proper date.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good one. It's a good one. So I always like to throw in a surprise question. I know you've been dreading this question, but let me get you thinking. Now,
okay.
we've all had experiences in relationships or dating where we've just had one of those moments where we want the ground to swallow us up. Those embarrassing moments, been on a bad day, a good day, and you've just gone, oh my God, get me out of here right now. So you know where I'm going with this. My question to you is, tell us, or tell your viewers, about a time when you had one of these just really embarrassing day or just really embarrassing moment where you tell your friends about it and you can't help but laugh, but at the time you just wanted the ground to swallow you up.
Yeah. Oh dear, where do I start? I mean, there's so many of them. Oh gosh. I'm just trying to think what's sort of appropriate to tell. No.
You don't have to name names, or you don't have to.
No, I know. Oh yes, I tell you what. Years ago, when I was on a first date with this guy, we went to a restaurant. Maybe it was a second date, because we went to a restaurant, so maybe it wasn't the first time. And the waiter brought us menus, and we were both looking at them and probably really nervous. And the waiter came back and said, it would probably help if you turn around the menus. So we'd both been looking at the menus wrong way around, because we were so nervous. So that's
go?
my embarrassing date story.
Did you go out with him again?
I did. Yes, actually, we did date it for a while. Yeah.
At least you had things in common. Neither of you could hold the menu the right way round.
Exactly right. No, that was the icebreaker. We laughed a lot after that because we kind of realized how nervous we both were.
Awesome. So I want to focus in now on a bit more about the work you do and the Nordic approach. I know we've talked that you teach a specific, you take certain steps to help people find the types of relationships they really want. Can you talk more to that about how you help people, the process you take them through, when might be a good time for them to get help if they're not getting what they want from a relationship or dating or whatever it is they're struggling with?
Yeah, great. Okay. So first of all, when to sort of reach out to work with a coach, i.e. get help? I guess a lot of my clients come to me because they're really frustrated because they keep on getting the same results over and over, attracting the wrong kind of people or ending up in similar relationships. So they have a pattern that they know is there, but they don't know how to break it. So I guess if you're really frustrated or if you're never going on second dates, either because nobody else wants to see you again or you never want to see anyone again, if you're really picky about who you want to meet, if you just sort of feel that there's no good women or men out there for me, they're all taken, that's bullshit. Excuse my language.
Don't
There's
apologize.
loads of lovely people out there. Sorry?
Don't ever apologize for that.
Yes, so those kind of things, but mainly it's when people have this, if you have a pattern and you just don't know how to break it, that's when you come and talk to me, because A, I've gone through it myself, and B, I know how to get out of it, and I can help you get out of it as well. In terms of the Nordic approach, so it's basically about being open. And open in this context means that you're being open to meeting different kinds of people, and you don't always go through a really long checklist, because that really isn't helpful. It's about open to meeting, opening up your possibilities in terms of different kind of people. And it's open to being surprised, and also open not to do what others are expecting you to do. And it's also about being equal. So equal dating, and what that means, and I guess this is where the Nordic is really coming across, because in the Nordic countries, as a lot of people might know, that the gender difference is, or the gender sort of equality is much higher than it is somewhere like in UK. And it really is showing in relationships as well, which we talked about earlier in relation to the stigmatized sex, for example. So it's really about sort of, rather than always saying, oh, if you're a woman, you should be this, if you're a man, you should be doing that. It's about forgetting those rules, because they're just dividing us further away from each other. But actually doing what feels right for you as an individual, as well as keeping safe. I'm not sort of, asking people to go and do loads of crazy stuff. Keep yourself safe as well. There's obviously that element to it as well. So it's equal. It's about being straightforward. And again, in the Nordic countries, we're not normally very good with small talk. But instead, we say what we want to say, and we say what we sort of about what's important to us, rather than just blah, blah, blahing away. So it's about the important stuff, and it's about being genuine in terms of what you actually want, and expressing that to your date or partner or lover or whoever they are, and rather than having some complicated agendas behind it. It's also about being inclusive. And again, what that means is that, well, in terms of my work, it means that I work with any gender or any sexual orientation. So I really want to keep it quite inclusive from that perspective. And it's also about being liberal, and that's almost like an umbrella term for all of them. And it kind of also ties in with a bit of a Buddhist philosophy, which I, wholly subscribe to. So yeah, liberal means kind of all those terms in together, kind of thing. So that's what the approach is. And the way I work with people is that I first of all have an initial chat on the phone, and then we then we book in what we call a discovery session, where I find out a bit more about the person. So I will send them a form to fill out with some questions around their lives and how they got to where they are right now. What do they want to achieve in relation to dating and relationships, and by when? And then we kind of start working through that in coaching sessions. So it's very much an individually based plan, so to speak. And the clients that I work with on a weekly basis often have the best and quickest results, because obviously it's a sort of a regular sort of calls. But some people want once a month call, some people want every 2 weeks. It really depends on the individual, what life stage they're at, and what kind of requirements they have in terms of what they want to achieve. So the one-to-one coaching is what I love doing, and I think that's what I do best. But I've also recently started, if you're based here in London, I've got brunch workshops. So I've started sort of inviting people for a brunch in a nice London venue. And there's always one topic for each brunch. And the first topic for this year was, how can I cultivate more love in my life in 2019? And we had such a beautiful conversation. There were 4 people who were strangers to each other, and they were just opening up like nothing, and it was really great, and I had some great feedback. So I've started doing those sort of workshops as well. So it's a kind of light-hearted, relaxing way to learn about a topic that's always related to dating, relationships, or sex and intimacy. So that's another thing that I do on top of my one-to-one coaching.
And it's not just information you're giving, is it? You know, these are, you know, when you're working with people, they are going to have to actually do the work.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And I do keep my clients accountable, you know, for what they do. And of course, it's their decision if they want to, you know, follow through it. And that's when they don't see very great results. But the ones who do, obviously have much better results. So yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of work. So it's not like you go and work with a coach and the coach does everything for you, or that they somehow, you know, have a magic wand that will magically sort of everything that you want to work towards will happen, but you need to do the work. Yeah, absolutely.
Surely that's not right. Surely you have to work. That's like running a business. Like,
yeah,
very similar. You can't get rich overnight. Can't get the love of your life overnight. Love at first sight. Awesome, love it. So love that. So if somebody did enjoy the interview today and they wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Yeah, so probably the best way is to go to my website. All my contact details are there. So it's Miia Koponen. So it's MIIAKOPONEN.com. And you can see all my social media handles there as well. And maybe you can put it on the comments, because
I'll make sure I include it in the description.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a difficult spelling with 2 I's and then the Finnish surname as well. So it's MIIAKOPONEN.com.
Awesome. There we go. So if you want to get in touch with me, then you know how to get in touch with me. I'll make sure I put it in the description box below. So thank you very much for this interview. It's been a pleasure, and I hope everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure as well. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you.
Awesome. It wasn't too scary in the end, was it?
No, it wasn't actually. Yeah.
Brilliant. So I am going to be doing more of these interviews. You are going to be seeing more interviews relating to dating, specific demographics, dating, communication in relationships, sex and intimacy. I'm going to be teaching a load of different topics. So I'm going to be bringing experts on to talk about specialist topic. So if you've enjoyed this specific interview, make sure you go and subscribe below. And if you do have any questions for Miia, then make sure you put them in the comments box below. From me and from Miia, hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you guys all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.